They thought Catherine Lane was harmless because she moved quietly and spoke softly, because she healed instead of fought, and because she never raised her voice, but the truth was buried deeper than any report, and the night she stopped being invisible was the same night she chose not to run, even when fear pressed its hands against her chest and asked her to give up. Let me take you back to where it all began. Catherine was kneeling beside a wounded man inside a field hospital that never felt finished, her sleeves rolled up, her hands steady while the man kept talking just to stay awake. And when he asked her if she had done this before, she said yes without looking at him because looking would have made it personal. And she had learned a long time ago that personal feelings slow your hands, and slow hands cost lives. Around them, people moved with tired steps and tired faces, and although no one said it out loud, everyone knew they were forgotten out here, left to hold each other together while the weather and the world pressed in from all sides. Someone joked that she worked too calmly for a medic, and someone else said she never seemed surprised. But Catherine let those words pass because explaining herself had never saved anyone. She always sat facing the door, not because she was afraid, but because old habits stay long after uniforms change, and when sounds came from outside that others ignored, her body reacted before her thoughts did. A tight breath, a stillness, a quiet count in her head that she never shared. Then the storm grew worse, not loud or dramatic, just heavy and endless. And during one long shift, a guard brought in a boy who looked more like a shadow than a child. His hands raw, his eyes too old, and pressed against his chest was a thin dog that stayed close as if the world had already taught it not to trust distance. Catherine didn't ask questions because the boy did not need them. So she wrapped him in a blanket, spoke softly, and showed him where he could sit, and although he never answered, he watched her with a focus that made her chest ache in a way she did not expect. The others whispered guesses, but Catherine noticed smaller things, like how the boy followed her steps without sound and how the dog never left his side. And while days passed and the storm refused to break, the hospital kept breathing in and out through pain and work and quiet hope that tomorrow would come. At night, when the lights dimmed, Catherine thought of things she had buried, of a place far away and a moment she never outran. And she pressed those memories down because there were still people breathing in front of her. Then one night the power failed without warning, not slowly, not kindly, and the silence that followed was wrong in a way she knew too well. And as others froze, Catherine moved, pulling the boy close, telling him to stay low and stay still. And for the first time since she arrived, she felt the past rise up inside her, not as fear alone, but as a choice she knew she would soon have to make, because some doors, once opened, never close again, and the moment she stepped toward the roof to find a signal, she did not yet know that everything she had tried to forget was already waiting for her in the dark. Her boots didn't make a sound on the stairwell because Catherine had learned how to move when sound was dangerous. Each step toward the rooftop felt like walking backward into memory. The cold air didn't bother her anymore, not because she was strong, but because she was already somewhere else in her mind, somewhere hot, loud, dusty, somewhere she hadn't talked about in years. She pushed open the door to the roof and kept low. The snow was still falling, not gently, but in sharp angles that stung when they hit your face. She pulled her hood tight, lifted her eyes, and scanned the ground below. First, nothing, just the dark, the blur of distant trees, a truck half covered in frost. Then movement. 6 men, maybe 7, not in any uniform she knew, moving in from the west wall without urgency, like they weren't worried about being seen, like they knew no one was coming to stop them. They had something slung over their shoulders, people, some limp, some barely awake, all carried like they were nothing. She froze, her mouth dry, her hands tight. She didn't move because she needed to understand what she was seeing. Then she saw her, a girl, maybe 11, maybe younger, standing by one of the trucks, a yellow scarf around her neck, hands tied in front of her, face turned toward the building like she was waiting to be taken next. Catherine couldn't breathe. She wanted to yell, to run, to do something, but her body locked because this wasn't the first time she had seen that color. It wasn't the same girl, not really, but it didn't matter. The image crashed into her chest like something alive, and before she could stop it, her knees buckled, and she dropped behind the concrete barrier, heart racing, breath shaking, eyes burning. She hadn't thought about the yellow dress in years, hadn't let herself remember the moment in Fallujah where she'd hesitated. where the shot should have been taken, where the child had stood at the doorway with wires wrapped around her waist. Confused, scared, waiting. Catherine had frozen. 7 seconds. She had counted them every night for 2 years. That day, 3 men died. She had walked away from combat after that. Swore she'd never hold a rifle again. Swore she'd only save lives, not end them. Then she heard it. A sound behind her. Not footsteps, not a voice, just the soft rustle of fabric and breath. She turned, and there he was. The boy, silent, eyes wide, standing next to her without making a sound. He didn't speak. He didn't point. He just looked at her, then slowly lowered his hand toward the ground. That's when she saw the rifle. It wasn't his. It had been left, dropped, maybe by a guard trying to run. It lay across the rooftop between them. Snow dusted the barrel. The sling dragged across the edge like it had been waiting. Catherine looked at it. Her hands didn't move. The boy looked up at her like he already knew she wouldn't pick it up. Then he stepped closer, gently reached out, and touched her sleeve. Not to push, not to pull, just to say, "I'm still here." And behind him, the dog, still silent, still watching. That's when Catherine understood. This wasn't about revenge. It wasn't about her past. It was about this boy, these people, the ones being dragged across the snow like broken furniture, and the ones inside the hospital who didn't even know what was coming. She looked back over the wall and counted the trucks, counted the men, counted the seconds it would take for them to breach the back entrance. Then she made her choice. She didn't pick up the rifle. She reached down and took the boy's hand. It was cold, small, but steady. He nodded once, just once, then turned and led her back toward the stairs. They moved together, quiet as breath. Back inside, the halls were too still. No one was yelling yet. No one knew. Catherine walked quickly, staying in the shadows, checking each room. The dog followed, close behind, ears up, alert but calm. Catherine stepped into the supply room and grabbed her bag. Not a weapon, not ammo, just the tools she knew best: gauze, scissors, surgical tape, morphine for fluid. She didn't know exactly what she was going to do, only that it had to be fast, and it had to be quiet. In the recovery ward, 3 patients were asleep. One still had a chest tube. Another had a broken femur and couldn't walk. Catherine's mind started running, quick and sharp. She looked at the windows, looked at the vents, thought about air circulation, about noise, about heat signatures. She didn't need orders. She needed time. She whispered to the boy, "Stay here." He shook his head. "I need to help them," she said. Still, he shook his head. Then he took her hand again. This time, he didn't pull her. He pushed open the supply closet and pointed to the vent above. It was small, barely wide enough for a child. "You want to go through there?" she whispered. He didn't nod. He just climbed. The dog stayed behind. Catherine took one last look toward the door, then helped him up. They would need help getting out. The back gate was locked, and the guards were missing. She didn't know how many were left, or if they were alive. She kept moving, sliding supplies into her pack, cutting blankets into strips for tourniquets. She had done this before, not just in training, in real places, under real fire. And even though she had promised herself she wouldn't do it again, her hands remembered every step. Someone spoke in the hallway. Not English, too calm to be panicked, too practiced to be afraid. She ducked low, crawled under a desk, and waited. Boots passed the doorway. 3 pairs, then 4. They were already inside. She had less time than she thought. She didn't move until the footsteps faded. Even then, she stayed low just in case someone doubled back. Her breathing was shallow. Her hands were tight around the straps of her bag, and her eyes didn't blink. That part of her had always stayed sharp. The waiting, the stillness, the quiet decisions. She crawled out, stood slowly, and checked the hallway again. Clear for now. She went straight to the side room where they kept the mobile gurneys. She pulled one out, locked the wheels, and wheeled it fast but quiet to the recovery ward. The man with the chest tube was first. She whispered his name. He stirred, Barely. "Stay calm," she said, her voice low but warm, like she had practiced. "You're going for a ride." He tried to speak but couldn't. His lips were cracked, his skin pale. She adjusted his oxygen and moved him carefully. "Two more patients." She didn't have time to explain. She made a choice and whispered, "Trust me." Only one of them nodded. She didn't need more than that. She got all three onto mobile stretchers, covered them in extra sheets, and pushed one at a time down the side hall where fewer people ever walked. She didn't take them outside yet. Not until she had a path. Not until she knew where the boy had gone. But as she reached the storage corridor, she found him already waiting, covered in dust, knees scraped. He had climbed through the vent and opened the back panel from the inside. He stood holding a flashlight, pointing it down the hallway like he had done this before. Catherine gave a small nod. Not to thank him, but to acknowledge they were now in this together. There was no turning back. The dog was still following. It never made a sound. But every time she turned, it was watching. She moved the first stretcher forward. The boy ran ahead, checked the corners. No signal. No guards. No one. The entire compound felt like it had been abandoned from the inside. But the danger hadn't passed. It had only shifted. Outside, the snow had slowed. Only a few flakes floated now. The sky was the kind of gray that made everything feel closer than it was. The back fence sat half covered in ice. Behind it, the woods. Not deep, but dark enough to hide in. She had to get the patients there, then circle around, then find an exit road. She had trained for this before, just never alone. The boy helped her push the first stretcher. She kept her head low. The wind had died down. That worried her more than noise. She whispered, "We're not running, just walking." He nodded, and they walked. She thought about how strange it felt. How even in a moment like this, with danger in every direction, the boy wasn't scared. Not visibly. He just stayed focused. Like his mind worked the same way hers did. Step by step, action by action, no panic. She moved the second patient, then the third. Each trip felt longer. Her legs were getting slower, her breath heavier. But she didn't stop. She looked at the boy again. "We're going to need a place to hide." He pointed. Not far. A small dip in the ground covered by brush. She hadn't seen it at first, but he had. She pushed the stretchers in one at a time, using blankets and broken crates as cover. It wasn't perfect, but it was something. The boy climbed in beside them. She took one last look back toward the building. And that's when she saw it. A figure, standing near the entrance, holding a weapon, not aiming it, just waiting. The shape was wrong. Not one of theirs. Not medical. Not transport. A stranger. Still. And then two more appeared behind him. Catherine ducked low, pulling the last blanket tight around the stretcher, then laying flat on the frozen ground. Her heart was steady, but her jaw clenched. Not out of fear, out of calculation. She whispered, "We don't move now, no matter what." She waited. 10 seconds. 20. A minute. Then the footsteps started again. Not close, but steady. They were searching. Not in a hurry, because they thought they had time. But they didn't know Catherine Lane. And they didn't know that the evac team, who hadn't heard from them, was already planning a flyover. She didn't know it either. Not yet. But help was on its way. If she could hold long enough. She heard something this time. A voice. Too far to understand. But it was asking questions. One man. Two answers. Then silence again. Catherine pressed her forehead to the snow. She couldn't feel the cold anymore. Just the pressure of the moment. The weight. Then a hand touched her shoulder. She turned sharply. It was the boy. He handed her something. It wasn't a weapon. It was a radio. Broken. But not completely. She checked the battery. Flickered. Low. But not dead. She looked at him, surprised. He just pointed up. To the trees. A hill. High enough to maybe catch signal. If she could get there. And if they didn't see her go. She looked back at the stretchers. She looked at the dog. Then she made another choice. She took the radio, whispered to the boy, "Stay here." He nodded once. The dog lay down beside him, watching again. Catherine moved, slow at first, then faster, up the hill, through the snow, past a rusted crate, past a collapsed fence post, the sound of wind in her ears, then a small ridge, and as she reached the top, she raised the radio, pressed the button. No reply. She tried again. Still nothing. She took a breath, stepped 1 foot higher, raised the antenna toward the open sky, pressed again. This time a crackle, then a voice, faint, but real. Unidentified signal. Repeat. She almost cried. She pressed again. This is Echo Charlie Medic 9. Field unit breached. Civilians in danger. Requesting immediate evac. Coordinates to follow. Silence. Then, copy that, Echo Charlie. Hang tight. She lowered the radio, closed her eyes. Not relief yet, but something close. Then she turned and saw one of the men at the base of the hill, looking straight at her. She didn't breathe, didn't blink. She dropped to one knee behind a thick pile of broken crates at the top of the ridge and stayed still. The man stood at the bottom, scanning, not moving. He hadn't raised a weapon yet, but he wasn't wandering either. He was looking. That was worse. It meant he had heard something, or maybe he had seen the reflection off the radio. She waited. Then he started walking up. Slow, careful, 1 step at a time. Catherine looked down. Her hands were empty. She'd left the rifle. She'd left everything except her bag and the broken radio, which now sat useless in the snow beside her. Her mind raced through options. Could she draw him away? Could she hide in the brush? Then, without warning, the radio made another sound. Louder this time. Clearer. Echo Charlie? Do you copy? The man froze, then turned toward the sound. He saw her. For just a second, their eyes met. He started running up, and Catherine ran. She didn't scream. She didn't call for help. She just moved. Fast. Sharp. She turned downhill and sprinted through the snow, her boots slipping but holding just enough. She could hear him behind her now, getting closer. She didn't know if he was armed. Didn't care. All she knew was that if he reached her, the boy and the others wouldn't be safe anymore. She ran toward the last thing she remembered, the vehicle graveyard near the edge of the trees. Wrecked jeeps, old supply trucks, half frozen under snow and metal sheets. If she could reach that, maybe she could hide. Maybe she could disappear long enough for evac to come. She hit the fence first, climbed it without thinking, and dropped into the yard below. Her ankle twisted slightly, but she didn't stop. She crawled under the shell of an old cargo truck and pressed herself flat against the ground. Her heart pounded against the earth. Her breath came fast, but quiet. She counted in her head, just like before. 1, 2, 3. Then the footsteps, crunching snow, getting closer. He had followed. She turned her head, looking through the rusted frame of the truck. A shadow moved past. She stayed still. He stopped walking. Silence. Then his voice. Not angry, not loud, just calm. I know you're here. Catherine didn't respond. I'm not here to hurt you. Not if you don't make this worse. Still, she didn't move. I saw the boy, he said. Saw what you were doing. Then a pause. You think this matters? You think anyone's coming for you? Another pause. We've already taken the rest. This place is done. Then quiet again. Too long. She peeked out just slightly. He was standing near the front of the truck now, looking the other way. She took the chance. She slid out the back, quiet, low, moving fast around the side. He turned. Saw her. Hey! But she was already gone. She darted between wrecks, past broken machines, toward the back fence. And then, a sound above, a shadow crossing the sky. She looked up. A helicopter. Low. Fast. Not enemy. Black Hawk. She almost collapsed. She waved her arms, spun around once, then pointed toward the trees where she had hidden the patients. The chopper didn't slow, but it circled. Then the voice came back in the radio on her shoulder. Echo Charlie, we see you. Mark the site. She didn't have flares, didn't have markers. She looked down, grabbed a piece of white cloth from her bag. She tied it around the base of a pole high enough to see, then raised the radio. Mark down. Civilians under cover. Repeat. Civilians under cover. The chopper adjusted. She turned to run back, and the man was there. This time close. Too close. He lunged, grabbed her arm. She shoved back. He didn't fall, but he slipped. She reached for her bag. He grabbed her shoulder. She turned and drove her elbow into his face. He stumbled. She grabbed a snow-covered wrench from the ground. Not a weapon, just heavy enough. He reached again. She hit him. Once. Hard. He dropped. Not out cold, but stunned. She didn't wait to see if he got up. She ran. She reached the brush where the boy was hidden. He was sitting up, still holding the flashlight. The patients were still there, breathing. The dog stood up as she approached. No sound, no panic, just ready. Catherine dropped to her knees. The helicopter hovered above now. She raised her arms. 3 figures dropped ropes and descended. One of them ran to her, checked her eyes. "You Echo Charlie?" he asked. She nodded, barely. "Status?" She pointed to the patients. 3 wounded, 1 child, 1 asset dog. He blinked. "Dog." She said it again. "We're not leaving the dog." The soldier nodded. Didn't argue. They started lifting stretchers. One by one. The boy didn't speak. Just climbed onto the rope when told. The dog climbed with him. Catherine stayed behind until the last. When she climbed into the Blackhawk, the wind screamed around her. She sat beside the boy. He didn't look scared. He looked at her. Then he reached out and held her hand. And she didn't let go. The inside of the Blackhawk smelled like fuel and sweat and something old, like cloth that had been wet too long. Catherine sat on the cold metal bench across from the boy, holding onto the safety strap with one hand, still gripping the edge of her bag with the other. She had wrapped a blanket around him the second they lifted off, but he hadn't said a word, not even a nod, just sat there, clutching the dog, who lay still in his lap with eyes wide and body warm. The medics on board checked the stretchers quickly, attaching monitors, IVs, covering exposed skin with whatever they had. No one questioned Catherine. No one asked why she had moved them, how she got them out, or where the others were. One of the crew just glanced at her and said, "We got your signal." That was it. She didn't answer. She stared at the floor. Her legs were trembling, but not from fear. It was everything else. Everything she hadn't let herself feel for the past 4 hours. The memory of the girl in the yellow scarf. The silence in the vent. The pressure of waiting while people with weapons walked within inches of her. The man she struck with the wrench. The choice not to pick up the rifle. And the boy who trusted her without asking for proof. The roar of the blades filled the space. No one talked after that. Just the sound of survival. Just breathing. Just the quiet thump of her heart beginning to slow. When the Blackhawk landed at base, everything moved fast. The wounded were taken first. The boy hesitated as they let him out, but Catherine gave him a small nod. "I'll be right behind you," she said. He looked down at the dog, then back at her. Still no words, but something in his eyes softened. The last thing she saw before stepping off the chopper was the dog's head resting on his chest as they disappeared into the hallway of the medical tent. Catherine didn't even get 5 steps before 2 officers stopped her. One of them was tall, clean uniform, serious face. The kind that didn't bend for anyone. His nameplate said K. Winfield. He looked at her like he had read part of the story but hadn't believed it yet. "You're Lane?" he asked. She nodded once. He raised a brow. "The medic." She nodded again. He looked her up and down. Not with suspicion, with confusion. "We received the evac request, and the pilot reported multiple recoveries. No casualties." "That's right," she said. "And no shots fired?" She looked at him, held his stare. "None from me." He paused. "You didn't carry a weapon?" She shook her head. "Didn't need one." Winfield didn't respond. He just stepped aside and said, "Command wants a debrief. Now." She followed without a word. The debrief room was nothing but a metal chair, a folder, and a desk that hadn't been wiped down in weeks. A heater hummed from the corner but barely worked. A woman stepped in after her. No rank showing. Civilian clothes. Clipboard in hand. Name: Catherine Lane. Role: combat medic. Field assigned. Volunteer status. Did you leave your post during the breach? Yes. Did you engage any enemy forces? No. She wrote something down. Did you neutralize any threats? I stopped one. How? Redirected. No weapon. The woman paused. Is that what you were trained to do? Catherine looked up. No, but it's what worked. The questions went on for an hour. By the end of it, no one had accused her of anything. But no one thanked her either. When they let her leave, she walked slowly through the corridor, unsure where to go. The sun was starting to rise outside. Pale light, thin clouds, the kind of cold that makes everything quiet. She passed the recovery tent without meaning to. Then she saw him. The boy was sitting on a cot, legs tucked under a wool blanket, the dog curled beside him. He looked up when she entered. Still no words, just watched her as she walked closer. She sat on the edge of the cot next to him. For a long time they didn't speak. Then, softly, the boy said, "They took my sister." Her throat tightened. He didn't cry, didn't shake. He just said it like it was already part of him. Was she wearing yellow? Catherine asked. He nodded. Catherine leaned forward, elbows on her knees. I saw her, she whispered. The boy turned. Catherine said nothing more. She didn't make a promise she couldn't keep. She just reached out, opened her hand, and waited. He placed his in hers. No pressure, no grip, just trust. The kind that didn't need explaining. The kind that said, I saw you. I'm still here. And in the quiet space between them, he spoke again. Only one line. Soft. True. She never told me to be brave. Then he looked at her. She just held my hand. Catherine didn't leave his side for the next hour. She didn't need to. No one came in to ask questions. No one told her to go. Sometimes, when the world gets quiet after something terrible, there's nothing more healing than just being near someone who understands why you're quiet too. She watched the boy's chest rise and fall. He was finally asleep. The dog hadn't moved, just opened one eye every now and then, as if it had seen more than it should and was still waiting for the next bad thing. Catherine sat still, her legs stiff from not moving, but she didn't care. Her back ached. Her hands were sore. There was blood on her boots, dried mud on her knees, and a mark on her shoulder where the man had grabbed her. But none of that hurt as much as the memory of the yellow scarf. The way it looked when it caught the wind, even for a second. The way it pulled her backward in time. She had spent years trying to outrun that memory. And in one night, it had come back and stood right in front of her. She reached into her bag and pulled out the notebook. Not hers, the boy's. He'd left it in the cot during the first night. The pages were full of drawings, not childish ones, but careful ones. Faces, buildings, dogs. Some had names written beside them, others didn't. On one page, near the middle, there was a picture of a girl in a scarf. Catherine stared at it for a long time. Her hands started to tremble again, and she closed the notebook slowly. She looked over at the dog. What's his name? She whispered. The dog's ears twitched. A voice behind her answered. Whisk. She turned. It was the boy. He wasn't asleep anymore. He rubbed his eyes with his sleeve and sat up straighter. You named him that? The boy shook his head. My sister did. Catherine nodded, then paused. She's smart, she said gently. She's gone. He didn't cry when he said it, and Catherine didn't correct him. Some things you don't argue with. You just sit with the person while they carry it. He reached out and pulled Whisk closer, burying his face into the dog's side. Then, muffled, he asked, Why didn't you shoot? Catherine didn't answer right away. Not because she didn't know, but because answering felt like opening a door she hadn't touched in years. She looked at her hands. How steady they had stayed all night. How bloody they still were. I've done it before, she finally said. Too many times. The boy waited. I stopped because I froze once. Someone died. He lifted his head. Who? She didn't flinch. 3 people. But it was one girl I still see. The boy didn't speak, just nodded like he understood. Because maybe he did. Later that morning, a nurse came in with hot tea and a quiet smile. No questions, just a moment of kindness. Catherine took the cup and thanked her softly. The boy didn't touch his until she handed it to him herself. Then he sipped once, nodded again, and said, "This place smells better than the other one." Catherine smiled for the first time in days. It wasn't a full smile, but it was enough. By late afternoon, command called her in again. A different room this time. Warmer, cleaner. There was a man in uniform waiting, high rank, polite voice. The kind of man who had learned how to say everything carefully. "I read your full report," he said. "Or what exists of it." She nodded. "We're still unsure how they got past our perimeter." She nodded again. "You improvised. Moved patients without escort. Broke protocol." "Correct. You struck a hostile without authorization." "I did." He tapped his pen. "But you saved lives." Catherine didn't say anything. He leaned forward. "Why didn't you carry a weapon?" She looked him in the eye. "I came here to heal." There was silence. Then he spoke again, softer. "You served with 3rd Battalion, didn't you?" "I did. I know some of those people." She nodded once more. He leaned back. "Some would say you violated direct field rules. I'd say I followed the right ones." There was another pause. Then he smiled, just a little. "I'm recommending a reassignment." She blinked. "Official title. Not just field medic. Combat medic with autonomous field command." Catherine stared. "I'm not asking you to shoot. I'm saying if this happens again, I want you in charge." She didn't answer. So he added, "Because you already were." That night, back in the quiet bunk room, Catherine finally sat down on a proper bed. Her gear was beside her, her boots cleaned, her wounds covered. She should have felt better, but her eyes kept drifting to the cot across the room. The boy was asleep again. Whisk was curled in the same spot, and the notebook lay open beside them. Another drawing was there now, fresh. This one showed the 2 of them, Catherine and the boy, holding hands. The scarf in the wind, the chopper in the sky, the dog in the middle, eyes wide and steady. Catherine reached over and gently closed the cover. She let her fingers rest on it for a second longer than she needed to. Then she turned out the light. And for the first time in a long time, she didn't dream about Fallujah. She dreamed of snow, and a boy, and the sound of someone saying, "She just held my hand." She woke up without knowing why. No sound had woken her. No nightmare. Just that quiet pull inside her chest. The kind you feel when someone's about to say your name. The room was dim. The others were still asleep. But something in the air was different. She sat up slowly, rubbed the stiffness from her neck, and looked toward the cot across from hers. Empty. The blanket was still warm. The dog was gone too. Catherine stood fast, heart already starting to race. Not panic, just alert. The way her body still knew how to move before her mind caught up. She grabbed her boots, pulled them on without tying them, and stepped out into the cold morning light. The sky was gray, the kind that told you a storm was still far away, but thinking about coming back. She scanned the open space between tents. Then she saw it. The boy, walking toward the edge of the airfield. The dog at his side. She followed, didn't call out, just walked behind him until he finally stopped. He was standing at the wire fence, looking out at the horizon. And when she reached him, he said just 2 words. "She's alive." Catherine didn't ask how he knew. She just crouched beside him and waited. The dog didn't sit, just stayed standing between them, eyes locked on the distance like it was guarding something. The boy turned toward her. His face was calm, but his voice was shaking just a little now. "I saw her again, last night." Catherine watched him carefully. "Where?" she asked. "In the truck. When they left." He looked down. "They didn't see me. I hid. But she looked at me. Just once." Catherine nodded. "What do you want to do?" she asked softly. He didn't hesitate. "I want to go back." The base didn't agree. The request was denied within 2 hours. Too dangerous. No confirmed location. No formal mission. The trucks were headed toward the gray zone. Land held by groups that didn't wear flags, didn't follow rules, didn't answer to anyone. Catherine sat through the whole meeting without saying a word. She already knew what they would say, but her mind was already working on something else. When the room cleared, the same officer from before approached her again. Winfield. He looked tired. "You're serious about this?" he asked. "Yes. This isn't Fallujah," he said. "No backup. No QRF. No second chances." Catherine met his eyes. "I know." He sighed and leaned against the doorframe. "You want this under orders?" "No," she said. "I want this as a person." He didn't speak for a long time. Then he handed her a folded map. "Off the record," he said. That night she packed light. Only what she needed. No rifle. But this time she brought a flare. She wrote a short note and left it by the boy's cot. Said only, "You were right. She is alive. Stay. Wait for me." But when she reached the checkpoint at dawn, he was already there. Whisk too. Both waiting. The boy looked up at her with no fear. "I told you," he said. "I'm not staying behind again." She didn't argue. She looked down at Whisk. "Are you okay with this?" The dog stared back like it already knew the way. Then they walked. They crossed the wire before sunrise. Used old tracks. Took slow paths between hills and brush. Catherine moved like she had before she ever put on a medic patch. Quiet. Watchful. Calculated. The boy followed without speaking. Whisk led without hesitation. Each hour passed with more snow and more silence. But then, around mid-afternoon, they saw it. A burned-out truck, half buried in frost, still smoldering at the back wheel. Catherine crouched beside it, touched the side door, still warm. The boy knelt down and picked something up from the snow. A scarf, yellow, torn at the edge. He looked at her, holding it gently, then whispered, "She left this for me." Catherine's voice came slow. "She's trying to be found." They followed the drag marks for over a mile. It led to an old facility. Not military, industrial, storage or maybe power. The building was mostly intact, except for a wall that had collapsed inward, covering part of the entrance. There were guards outside. Not many, but enough. No uniforms. No reason. Catherine pulled the boy back into cover, then said, "If she's in there, we need to wait until dark." He nodded. Whisk curled beside them, and they waited. They didn't eat, didn't sleep. They just watched the door. The guards didn't talk much. They weren't scared. That meant they didn't expect trouble. That meant no one was coming for the people inside. Except her. The night came with no moon. Just clouds and wind and the soft breath of snow. Catherine moved first, sliding low through the broken fence, ducking behind rusted beams. The boy followed. Whisk too. At the broken side wall, she pulled out her small blade and cut through what looked like a cover tarp blocking a back entrance. They slipped inside. No lights, no sounds. Just the smell of oil, sweat, and something she didn't want to name. They passed an old hallway, then another. Then they heard it. A cough. Small, tight, muffled. She followed the sound, turned a corner, and saw her, the girl with the yellow scarf, tied to a chair, hands bruised, face pale, still breathing, still watching, and she wasn't alone. Another guard stepped in from the far door. Catherine didn't stop to think. She stepped into the light. The man froze. Before he could speak, she raised her arms. "No weapons," she said. He reached for his belt anyway. And then, Whisk lunged. Not loud, not messy, just fast, straight at his legs. The guard fell backward with a yell. Catherine ran forward, grabbed the girl, and cut the ties with her knife. "Can you walk?" she asked. The girl nodded. The boy stepped forward. "Sophie." The girl looked up. Her eyes filled. They didn't hug. They just touched hands. Then they ran. They reached the tree line just before dawn. The flare went up 10 minutes later. And the chopper came this time because someone had been watching. Someone had seen what Catherine had done before. and believed she might do it again. Inside the Black Hawk, Sophie sat between her brother and Catherine, whisk curled under their legs. Nobody spoke for the first few minutes, just breathing, just holding on to something that felt real again. Then the boy leaned his head against Catherine's shoulder and said softly, "She didn't need a hero." He looked at his sister. She just needed someone who didn't stop looking. Catherine closed her eyes and finally let herself cry. Thank you so much for staying with me until the very end of this story. If you enjoyed this story, I promise you will surely love the next one. This is crazier and more thrilling as you can ever imagine. So do check it out. Click on the image showing on your screen right now to watch the next one.